Goddy Agba was born on the 20th of August 1958 in Obudu, Cross River State. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in International Studies from the Ahmadu Bello University Zaria in 1983. Goddy Agba has a master's degree in International Law and Diplomacy from the University of Lagos in 1989. Now this is his turn to face the Senate and to defend his nomination as a potential minister of the Federal Republic.
Distinguished colleagues, the next nominee, point of order, leader.
Mr. President, my highly revered and distinguished colleagues, I just want to raise an order based on an understanding that this distinguished Senate has reached at the beginning of this exercise. We stated that as a matter of courtesy and as a matter of keeping the sanctity of this chamber, members should not endeavor, however friendly and close we are to nominees, we will be following them out of our seat after the process of confirmation has been concluded. So I would like to appeal to my colleagues, please, to kindly keep to this time-honored tradition. And we could do that kind of congratulations after we would have completed our exercises, either outside the chamber or at our various houses. So, Mr. President, I just want to make this as a reminder to my colleagues that we should abide by the rules of the game that we have already set for us.
Order, resolution.
Order, resolution of the Senate. Order.
Thank you very much, leader, for reminding us. Actually, you didn't need to come under any order. You could even go ahead to remind the Senate the understanding we reach amongst ourselves that when nominees are screened and they are on their way to exit, we don't have to go and be shaking with them. You can even take adverts if we want, if they are friends or mentors or whatever, or we can visit them after we close. But maybe it's better we don't do that. So your leader is not an order. I don't think you have an order, but this is an understanding and a reminder. And Senate Minority Leader, I'm sure you are in support of that reminder. Thank you very much. Well, distinguished colleagues, we have Mr. Goddy Agba, the nominee for Cross River State, who is on the podium. Mr. Agba, on behalf of my colleagues, you are welcome to the Senate chamber, and the copies of your CV have been distributed to all the senators here. Therefore, we have read, but you still can go ahead to highlight those areas that you feel the Senate needs to take a special note of. In addition, if there is anything that you have omitted from your CV, you are at liberty to talk to those things. Once again, you are welcome to this chamber, and you can now address the Senate.
Senate President, sir, Deputy Senate President, all principal officers of the Senate, distinguished senators, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you, Mr. Senate President, for the opportunity to stand here and address these hallowed chambers. I first of all will thank God for giving me the opportunity for being in good health of mind and body to be here today. Otherwise, I may not have been here. I also thank Mr. President for finding me worthy to be nominated to serve in his cabinet in any capacity. My CV is before all of you, I am aware, but I'd like to recognize the presence of the senators from my state, beginning with Senator Dr. Mrs. Rose Oko, Senators Geshom Basi, and Senator Sandy Ono. I also recognize the presence of other senators from other zones whom I know here, like my great friend, Senator Efan Yuba, Senator Greg, Senator Rosas Okorocha. Thank you, sir. All right. My CV is before all of us, and I'll just pick a few things. Oh, I forgot to mention Senator Dino Maleye, my very great friend. Thank you, Senator Dino. I have served this country in several capacities. I first went to secondary and primary schools in my place called Ugoja. I went to secondary school in Merenol Secondary School, Ugoja, in Cross River State. After finishing secondary school, I did A-levels, HSC. I finished in 1978 and didn't get admission that year to university. So the next year, 79, I went to Zaria. I attended a School of Basic Studies, Zaria, for 1 year, after which I entered the main university to study a BSc degree in international studies. I graduated in 1983, June 83, and did the national service in Port Harcourt, after which I was lucky to be employed into the Federal Civil Service of Nigeria, from where I was posted to the FCT, the Ministry of Federal Capital Territory, as Admin Officer 2 in 1984, October. I worked in that capacity until 1985, when I was appointed by the late Minister of FCT as his PA. I worked in that same capacity until the next minister took over from him, and I still serve in that capacity. By 1985, between 1985 and 1989, I served in that capacity. By 1989, I was seconded again to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where I served under the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Zachary Ibrahim, as his personal assistant. And finally, I served Alhaji Hassan Hadeja of blessed memory, who was Minister of State for Petroleum in 1993. That's when I joined the NNPC after that service. Having joined the NNPC in 1993, I was deployed to the Department of Crude Oil Sales and Marketing as a pupil officer. I headed the marketing and sales, head of gas and marketing and market research. I rose to the rank of Group General Manager in 2010. And that responsibility was very enormous. It entailed marketing crude oil for Nigeria. It is not sale of crude oil, it's marketing crude oil. There are two different things. Marketing entails packaging the entire product and putting it in the market and making it available or making it possible for other groups to buy it. When I took over, or when I resumed as GGM, Nigerian crude oil was basically sold only in Europe and the United States of America. The market was limited. However, we discovered that other crudes were coming, like Americans discovered shale oil, and shale oil was competing effectively with our crudes and depreciating our prices. So we had to look for a way of packaging our crude properly to other areas. We had to look for open markets. I went to Asia. We started selling to India and China. We started selling to Malaysia. We started selling to Turkey and Brazil. You will all recall that it is within my area, my time, between 2010 to 2014, that the market, our crude started penetrating those areas. And we made so much profit that at a point, the profit was so good that we opened crude oil, excess crude accounts, because there was so much money already generated from sale of crude oil, which is the main stay of our economy. We had to establish excess crude oil. I'm not discussing what happened with that figure or those few monies, but we generated that figure based on the ingenuity of my team, not just me. We put in place a system whereby from wellhead of crude to the sales end, revenue was generated and went directly to the federal government account, federation account, without tampering. So crude oil sales, for instance, is not cash-based. It is sold on letters of credit basis between the Central Bank of Nigeria, which is the receiving end, and the Federal Reserve Bank of America. So no cash transactions take place instead of crudes. It is instrument-based. If, for instance, crude oil is allocated to a company and a board, it did not pay money to any Nigerian bank. The Nigerian bank only served as a corresponding bank to confirm that this money is available in a bank in Europe or in America, and it can be called upon. If that crude is lifted and within 30 days is not paid, this money can be gotten from this bank, which is a confirming bank in Nigeria. Also, I want to remind us that within the 4 years which I served, there was no question of non-remittance of money to the federation account. All the states shared money each month for the 4 years. I'll allow us ask as many questions as possible now, Mr. Chairman, sir.
Senator George Thompson Sekibo.
Mr. President of the Senate at the chair sitting, my distinguished colleagues, I am Senator George Thompson Sekibo. I represent Rivers East Central District. Two simple questions. Because of the area you are coming from, that is why I'm asking this question, to learn from you. On daily basis, on regular basis, we hear explosion of pipelines all through the country, especially in the Niger Delta region, resulting in waste of our petroleum products, resulting environmental devastation, and also consuming lives and properties. What do you think is the cause of this incessant explosion, and what is your remedy to curb these excesses? That is question number one.
That's two questions.
Question number two. We heard that you were retired 5 years earlier than when you're supposed to retire by Honorable Minister Dizeni. What actually happened? Can you enlighten this chamber? Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Ezenwa Nyeuchi.
Thank you, Mr. President, seated as the chair. My name is Ezenwa Onyewuchi, Imo East Senatorial District. Mr. Nominee, there's no doubt that you've been a major player in the upstream sector. My question is, Nigeria runs a mono-product economy. Do you think this is sustainable? The over-reliance on oil, do you think is sustainable? If not, what ways can we diversify our economy? The second question for you is, how do you assess the implementation of the local content policy? Do you have ways of achieving a better policy? Thank you very much.
Minority Leader.
Thank you. My name is Sain Baribe, Abia South. I'm also going to ask you a question based on your expertise. One of the biggest problems we have in budgeting in Nigeria is that any time the budget is brought to the floor, we are told to wait until they bring what is called MTEF. And inside the MTEF is always the revenue sources stipulated. And we find that whatever is given to us as the price of crude on which the budget is based, after a short while, there will be an interplay between this Senate and the executive once there is a disagreement in terms of the future price of crude, which underlies the budget. So I would like you to tell us, having been in crude marketing, as you said, how we can have a seamless operation of knowing in 1 year what our crude will be worth, so that when we are doing our job here in terms of the budget, we will not have a difficulty in interfacing with the executive. We would like to be educated on that.
Senator Aisha Tudairu Ahmed Binani.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Aisha Tudairu Ahmed Binani, Senator representing Adama Center. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I want to crave your
volume on your voice.
I want to crave the indulgence of this Senate to allow me just 1.5 minutes background to my question, because this nominee is one that, going by his CV, I see that he has spent like 21 years in an industry that is the economic backbone of this country.
Quickly.
Distinguished, I don't think you need 1.5 minutes to read background. You may take a reasonable time just to ask the question.
Thank you, Mr. Nominee. Congratulations. Early this month, NNPC issued letters of award for contracts to exchange crude oil with refined imported petroleum products. That is whereby companies are allocated crude oil supply for exchange to deliver refined petroleum product to NNPC. But in the light of the report of NITI, Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, it says that in the previous contract of same, there was a revenue loss of at least $600 million due to discrepancy in the crude oil supply and the refined product delivered. And it said that it has also identified an outstanding liabilities of about $498 million in another operation from on the delivery of refined petroleum product, and another $90 million through NNPC's use of lower or revised pricing at the point of payment instead of the higher price at the point of purchase. Even though NNPC in 2017, 3 crude oil firms have agreed to pay back $184 million for on the delivery of refined petroleum product. You and I and every member of this chamber know that this amount is infinitesimally meager compared to the revenue lost by this country in the oil and gas industry. So going by your experience, assuming you are being confirmed by this Senate, and the Baba said, man the petroleum ministry, what measures will you put in place to ensure that to eliminate or eradicate totally this under-delivery, revised pricing at the point of payment, and discrepancy in the value of crude oil supplies vis-a-vis the refined product delivered? Secondly, how will you tackle the sharp practices in the industry, especially in the areas of transparency and accountability, in manning the affairs of oil business activities from survey to production to refining to marketing and meeting the demands of Nigerians and revenue generation to the country without any leakage? Thank you very much, and I wish you the best of luck.
Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting as chair. My name is Ojo Zokalo, representing Abia North Senatorial District. My question will be, if Mr. Nominee, if you are able to make the Minister of State in Petroleum, how are you going to allow us to refine all the 2 million barrels we are selling by a day? Because we are losing money by exporting those 2 million barrels instead of refining it here. And how are you going to use your office if Mr. President finds you worthy to be the Minister of State Petroleum, to stop us from selling our crude on FOB basis? Because having been in crude oil marketing, I know that you know that we are being cheated by selling our crude oil FOB basis. How can we initiate to sell this crude oil on CIF basis so that all costs will be charged, and will be in charge of loading, will be in charge of shipping, will be in charge of everything, so that we can get benefit of everything? Thank you very much.
You can respond.
Mr. President, sir, I'd like to start from the last question. Crude oil sales internationally is done on two bases. CIF, that's cost, insurance, and freight, as well as FOB, free on board. CIF means we are responsible for the cost of the fuel, the crude, the insurance of the crude, and the freight. Freight means transporting it. So if you come and buy crude from Nigeria, Nigeria will provide the vessel, Nigeria will provide the insurance for that cargo, and Nigeria will provide the cost. You pay the cost, and we'll take care of all that. The danger in that is that, and the other one, free on board, is that you bring your vessel, you buy a crude, you bring your vessel, we load it. Once you put the tie in the knob and you pump into the vessel, you fill the vessel, as you disengage the knob, it becomes your property. If at the point of selling, the bomb and your vessel sinks, it's your business. You've paid for, we have collected. It's your business. That came to force. You remember when we were in the military regime, our country had many litigations. We were like a pariah state. So any country that has problems with Nigeria can go to get arbitration from anywhere. Once you get arbitration and they said, garnishi, permit to use legal terms, garnishi or seize them, they can seize any vessel, any of Nigeria's property anywhere. Crude oil is our mainstay. If they seize 10 of our cargoes, because the court is sitting in Geneva or in America or in London, says, hey, Nigeria is owing this man 10 million or 200 million worth of dollars of money, seize anything. The first thing they will go for is those cargoes that are on the high sea, which will generate him his money. So it was safer for us at that time, and it is safer, to sell on CIF because nobody can seize your vessel. Once we load your vessel and we take off the pump head, it becomes your property. What happens to it is no longer the liability of NNPC or the Nigerian government. It's not the property of the Nigerian government any longer. Whereas CIF holds us liable until the port of discharge. So if you load in Bonny and you are going to Amsterdam or Rotterdam or Antwerp, until you get to Antwerp and you discharge into the tank and the man accepts that the calibration is okay, then liability stops being ours. So that's the disadvantage of both sides. Then, actually for grading, for refining our products, sale of products, you see, our refineries are in the least 50 years old. And any property or any vehicle or vessel or machine that has 50 years lifespan, has lasted of 50 years, requires to be refurbished regularly. There are standards for required called turnaround maintenances. We have not done turnaround maintenances for a long time. The only one we did, it's like giving your Mercedes-Benz car to a motorcycle mechanic to service. You know what you get. That's what we did only once. So the refineries require that we do turnaround and maintenance every 2 years. If you don't do that, you're not going to have maximum products from your refineries. So our refineries are old and indeed obsolete. However, refineries in India and Brazil are 70 years old. They last 70 years because they are periodically maintained. We have refused to maintain ours, so we are in that predicament. However, also, our refineries are configured to refine only one stream of crude. Nigeria has 32 streams. Port Harcourt refinery, for instance, is programmed to refine only Bonny light crude. Kaduna refines only heavy crudes and escravos. Warri refines only escravos. So for Kaduna, for instance, we take escravos, and when escravos is not producing, we import heavy crude from Venezuela. We used to import from Venezuela. We take a cargo of light crude, because ours is sweet crude light. Take it to the port of Curaçao. Curaçao is a big deep sea port in that area. And then they bring their own one cargo of heavy crude. We exchange by calibration, and then bring it to Warri, then pump from Warri to Kaduna for refining. And that one line has not worked for 10 years as I stand, I check to you. For 10 years, it has not happened because the pipelines are not available, and the crude exchange program could not work. So if we need to to correct that program, we need to reconfigure our refineries to produce, for one refinery to produce like 3 grades of crude. We'll have more products. We will now shut up the reason for importing crude. If, for instance, we configure Warri refinery to take in Ima, escravos, and Kwaibo, we have 32 crudes anyway produced by Nigeria. So if Warri processes 3 crude streams, Port Harcourt produces 3 crude streams, and Kaduna produces 3 crude streams, we'll have more products locally. We won't need to import products, and therefore we'll bridge the gap between importing and at a shorter price and paying extra for those services, which we call subsidy. However, if we must get to that stage, we should first service refineries and reconfigure them. Reconfiguration is just an extension of the refinery to make it capable to accommodate 3 crude streams rather than 1 stream or 4 crude streams as you want it, which will solve our problems of importing products and getting into the problems we have today. If we have enough local products, we can wet the country enough sufficiently to be able to meet our market demands. I was asked a question about, somebody called it local content, the distinguished senator called it local content. I prefer to call it Nigerian content, because it is Nigerian. We're not local, we're Nigerians, and it's for Nigerians. So the essence is to encourage more of our Nigerian companies and Nigerian citizens to participate in the oil industry, not just heavy participation. Even welders, you'll be surprised to hear that welders are brought from Houston, from Paris, to come and weld underground welding. A welder earns $10,000 per month. $10,000 per month per welder who is brought from Houston to weld pipe, whereas our boys are there languishing. If you teach them, train them to weld, they will do that welding very well, and the capital flight, which goes to France or to Germany or to Houston, will remain in Nigeria. $10,000 for just welding or for a diver. That's that's Nigerian content. And more Nigerian companies are being encouraged to participate in the downstream and upstream industry, so that we'll be able to have enough employment for our staff and our own hands-on in it. Most of the laws we are operating today are obsolete. They were designed by the IOCs, international oil companies, to service their interests. So we must revisit those laws, to make them compatible with the Nigerian situation so as to be able to enhance output and optimize revenue generation from these sections. For pipelines, our pipelines are as old as our refineries, and pipelines are made of metal. Crude oil is corrosive, so it corrodes. Having used one same pipeline for 50 years or 45 years, it will certainly corrode. So when it's corroded, it's easy to penetrate. If you just hit it with a stone, you can blow a hole and you can draw up pipe, and then it spills. It also, when there's crude oil is pumped under high pressure, so with that pressure can burst a pipe, and environmental degradation and all of that will happen. Apart from crude theft itself, but degradation due to aged pipelines. The solution to that, for me, is that today, in advanced oil economies, there are new systems of pipelining. We don't have to use those metal pipes. They're highly calibrated fiber pipes, which you lay. It takes 6 hours to bore a hole on those pipelines. So by the time you spend 6 hours trying to bore just a pinhole, you will have suffered enough. You can't steal. Secondly, it won't burst to degrade our environment. These pipelines are laid and they are connected to a control room, which is somewhere else. As soon as there's a tamper on that pipeline, it triggers an alarm at the control room. And then a drone will generate from that point and go to that place. It may not come with arms and fire. I'm not saying kill people. It comes with water, hot water. It goes to that area. If a man is trying to steal there, they pump hot water. The drone will drop hot water on your body. And for God's sake, nobody wants to be burnt. 1. 2, it will not burst our pipelines any longer because it's not corrosive. It is high fiber. So if we relay our pipelines and reconfigure them with control rooms, we can easily check what's happening from wellhead production to meter end and tank heads. So if we have that done, we don't have present problems with stealing fuel or broken pipes or environmental pollutions. It will abate. Finally, about my career and my retirement. Yes, I retired voluntarily, as it were, from the NNPC 5 years before my year of retirement. First of all, I was Group General Manager, Crude Oil Marketing. For some reasons, well, posting in the service is normal. You can be posted at any point in time. I was redeployed from Crude Oil Marketing Division to a newly created redundant position called Business Management. Good enough, that was good. Well, management has reasons to deploy anybody at any time. It was not as a result of fraud, discipline, or indiscipline, as the case may be. Maybe I was required to do some things I would not have done. I don't know. But I was deployed, and I went in there. Having stayed there and being redundant, I was still very young, and I'm still young and active. That can be satisfied to. So, in every way, yes, sir, up till now. Distinguished Senator. So, I was that way, and a law of politics came to me. I wanted to join your trade. So I ventured into politics. I retired and joined the gubernatorial race, and I failed woefully, which is natural. You fail the first time, you fail the second time, you may succeed the third time. But I failed woefully, and I went back to my shelf and continued doing my farming. Started doing farming and stayed on the back line and did what is called sit down look. And by the grace of God, I find myself here to serve my country in whatever capacity I'm given to serve. That's.
Distinguished colleagues, the next set will be Senator Matthew Rogide, Senator Tolu Odebi, Senator Dino Malai, Senator Said Al-Kali, and Senator Ibrahim Mohamed Boumai. In that order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm Senator Matthew Rogide. I represent the good people of Edo South Central District. Mr. Chairman, my distinguished colleagues, I want to crave your indulgence in congratulating my friend, my brother, Mr. Goddy Agba, on his nomination by Mr. President to be considered for ministerial appointment in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Senate has listened with a whole lot of attention the very professional explanation that this nominee has given so far to all the questions that have been asked. If we are to do a proper assessment that is fair, it is clear that this nominee has knowledge, deep knowledge about upstream. And of course, just like one of my distinguished colleagues mentioned earlier, that you have spent 21 years all in crude oil marketing. Of course, the explanations you have given very apt and detailed. No doubt that you have knowledge. Crude oil being the mainstay of our economy, there have been practices about the sale of these products. To date, in fact, the militancy that we still see in the Niger Delta is attributable to this issue of people going to find out what is in the pipeline, the crude oil. There has been this practice they call topping. Topping. It's a sharp practice, no doubt. Of course, you must have heard of that. So this senator will want to know what is topping. Because that one attended, of course, to preclude this country from getting its due share or its rightful share of returns from the sale of these products. I want you to look at that against the backdrop of those that are responsible, particularly the companies that have been appointed to do our export inspection. They are very specific. It is gratifying to note that as we speak, none of these companies has any subsisting agreement for the government of Nigeria because their agreements have not been renewed or revised. Therefore, this issue of topping comes to bear. So please, you will explain to the Senate. Number two, there has been a whole lot of controversy over subsidy. Even those who are sympathetic with us in the international community have said, oh, remove subsidy. And for us here in Nigeria, this Senate, we have come up with several motions on this issue of refineries you just explained, vis-a-vis the importation that we are doing of PMS. That again has robbed off of huge sums of money that we would have used for development in other areas. So I want you to tell us very clearly, because if you are sent to the Federal Executive Council, the onus is on you to advise the government what we should do about subsidy. We are spending trillions of naira. And again, that is fraught with a whole lot of fraud. So what is your position on subsidy? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my distinguished colleagues for this privilege.
Senator Tolu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fortunately, he just asked most of the questions I wanted to ask. But if I can ask the nominee, Senator Asha, to ask you earlier that the differential in the supply of crude and what we get is not reciprocal, and that there's a differential there. And you as the Chief Marketing Operator for the NNPC, how is that being handled, and what is responsible for that, and who oversees that? Thank you.
Senator Dilo Malai.
Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, Dino Melaye, Kogi West. Mr. President, sitting as chair, my colleagues, I want to start by congratulating my brother and friend, And I make bold to say one of the very few exceptional square pegs in square holes nominee from Mr. President, who also I congratulate as one of the nominees without EFCC or corruption baggage. Mr. Nominee,
Distinguished colleagues, all the nominees went through security clearance, and if anyone has any EFCC case, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria provides for innocence until proven guilty. So none of our nominees is a convicted person. You can go ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have not pronounced corruption and conviction, but some are undergoing investigation, and that is what I'm saying. Mr. Nominee, I want to say without fear of favor that I quite appreciate your response on the issue of pipeline vandalization. I wanted to ask you, but I'm very satisfied with your response, and especially with the international best practices that you are acquainted with, hoping that that will be adopted if you become the Minister of Petroleum. And we pray the Almighty God that God will touch the President and anoint the President to make you a substantive minister. Mr. Nominee, the issue of crude oil production. We have problem with knowing exactly what is our crude oil production volume per day. And this has been shrouded in a lot of secrecy, and it's one of the reasons responsible for major corruption in this country. As minister and someone that we know who behaves with every sincerity of purpose of heart and commitment, how will you use technology like it is used in Venezuela, in Saudi Arabia, in Iran, and even in our neighboring Ghana? Technology is used to determine the volume of production per day. What will you do if, by the grace of God, you become the Minister of Petroleum, to check and give Nigeria first-hand information of what the volume of our production, crude oil production per day is? And lastly, the question has been asked by my brother, Matthew Orogede, but I want to emphasize that apart from procurement in this country, the greatest corruption in Nigeria is in the oil sector. And the larger percentage of that comes from the subsidy regime. I want to buttress and elucidate that we will want you to profile what is your understanding of the subsidy regime and what is your position on subsidy. Thank you.
Senator Said Al-Ghali.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as chair, my name is Said Al-Ghali, and I represent Gombe North Senatorial District of Gombe State. The honorable nominee, you are aware that the federal government has embarked on poverty alleviation schemes, such as Empower, Market Money, Trader Money. But yet, the poverty level is still extremely high in the country. What will you advise the Federal Executive Council? Is that what more need to be done to alleviate poverty in Nigeria? You know, in our campaign, we have promised Nigerians that we are taking the country to the next level. Thank you.
Senator Ibrahim Mohamed Boumy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues. My name is Ibrahim Mohamed Boumy, representing Yobe's House. Mr. Nominee, I want to deviate from the questions, the pattern of questions being asked by my colleagues. According to your CV, you have been in the public service for at least 10 years. So, Mr. Nominee, you are aware recently the President inaugurated the Northeast Development Commission. So if you find yourself as a minister in the supervising the commission, what will you do to enhance the efficiency of the commission? That's
Okay. Thank you.
You can respond, please.
Okay. I would like to start with the subsidy issue, which is very topical. Subsidy or crude oil product importation and distribution is a commercial activity. It's an economic activity based on commerce, and for profit, it's profit oriented. Nobody goes to the market and buy products to come and dash. And product importation is highly capital intensive. You need at least $20 million to import 3 or 4 cargoes. No Nigerian bank will give you $20 million without a guarantee. So if I, for instance, I borrow money from the bank, go to import products to distribute in Nigeria, and then my landing cost of this product is $8 per barrel, or per liter, per liter. And the PPPRA has a template which says you cannot land at $8, it's at $6 per liter. There's a lacuna of $2. Who pays for that? I'm into business to make money. So I borrow money from the bank. I need to pay back the loan and interest. So, and then you are saying I cannot, and I landed this product in Nigeria below cost, below your template price. Somebody has to pay. So the solution to that for me is revamp our refineries. Make us produce more. If we produce more crude, we don't need more products. If our refineries work well and we produce, for instance, Port Harcourt will start refining 3 crude streams. Kaduna 3 crude streams and other. So we have more products locally. It will not be attractive to go and import any longer. You will see at that point, subsidy will disappear gradually by itself without government pronouncing it or the National Assembly prescribing it. It will disappear because it's easier for me to go to Kaduna, buy products, and sell within the Kaduna or North Central Zone than to go to America or Europe and import commodity with shortfalls, which nobody will pay me for. So the market will be flooded with products, and then we will not have reasons to have a shortfall between PPPRA pricing unit and the landing cost. There will be no landing cost no longer. So you have no reason to ask for subsidy because nobody will even listen because it is available. The refineries are working full blast. Products are available. If you want to do crude oil trade, products trade, go to PPR, go to Warri Refinery, go to Port Harcourt Refinery, go to Kaduna Refinery, buy the products and sell. And at that time, you can even liberalize. But the margin will not be as high as importing the import margin. So if you are buying at this price and selling at the X price, and the margin is this low for you as profit, you don't need to go import and have a lacuna there where you cannot pay. You have a bank loan to pay. You have the price shortage to pay. That's my solution to that one. And then for topping, Senator Matt, topping, you see, in the industry, there are very many terms which are wrongly used. Permits me to deviate a little bit. Somebody says, for instance, one person is doing bunkering, and he says, bunkering is not a crime. Bunkering just means supplying bunkers to a vessel. So when you bring a vessel to load crude oil or anything in a country, or if you own a vessel, every port you go to, you have agents or managers there who supply water, supply cigarettes, supply drinks, and supply food for the crew. When you move sail from Lagos to Sierra Leone, you stop in Sierra Leone, some new bunkers are put because the crew has to be fed, crew has to drink, crew has to smoke, crew has to bath. So you need to supply them water, fresh water, supply them food, supply them drinks, supply them cigarettes and alcohol. They're in the vessel for 30 days on the high sea. They need to survive. So this is called bunkering. Nigerians misconstrue it to mean stealing. Bunkering is not stealing. It's a legal and legitimate business. It's like you buy an aircraft, distinguished senator, you have an aircraft. Your aircraft is flying from here to another place. You must have an agent in that town who cleans your aircraft when they land. He cleans the aircraft, puts food, puts water, and checks tires and checks calibration before it goes to the next flight. So it's a legitimate business. Topping, I will assure you, is wrongly used in our country. Topping means stealing and adding more volume to what has been calibrated. It's padding, as it were. However, it's hard to happen from here because, you see, there are 19 agencies at the loading port. We call it terminals. At the loading terminals, there are 19 agencies. There are all of them, custom, immigration, and all of the 19 agencies. When I was there, now, if I were there today, I will add one more agency, services. They should join them. So these agencies are all there to check how much crude is loaded in the vessel, whether the quantity is X, and record it, and report to a group called NAETI. NAETI cross-checks that on a monthly basis and gives quarterly reports to the presidency. So for topping, it is difficult to just add to it because these agencies are, you can't brought 19 agencies. You can maybe compromise 2 agencies, but you can't compromise 19 agencies who are there at the same time loading. It's quite difficult. I'm not saying it's not possible to do this. The IOCs could do that because we do not have the technology to monitor the molecules from the beginning, from the wellhead to the end. We don't have that technology. But we can have it. If we address it, we can have the technology. But we don't have it now. So the IOCs determine what volume of crude to declare and what volume of crude we got because we don't have the control head. So if I were in charge, I would ask all oil companies, both local and international, to establish a control room. I saw recently, I'm sure most of us saw it, and Saudi owned. It's a big room like this. From the molecule, from the production head, every molecule is accounted for. As it goes onto the line, until it gets to the market, it's accounted for. We can do that in Nigeria. It's technology. It's just setting up a room like this. It's like what you call a war room. So if you said that, yeah.
The DSP, Senator Ross Okoji Oko, Senator Geshambasi, and Senator Sandy Ono, in that order.
Thank you, Mr. President. Respected colleagues. First, I want to thank Mr. President for this nomination. This is a very good nomination. He is a known quantity. As we say in law, this will be a fellow who knows where the bodies are buried. I want to congratulate you, Goddy Agba, for this nomination. I don't have a lot of questions for you. I have heard and seen the mood of my colleagues who say you ought to take a bow and go. Yes. And I subscribe to that. But before we get to that stage, I want to commend you for the education you've given to us with respect to the interlink between the subsidy regime and our refineries. I have always taken the position that there is no need for us to continue with this subsidy. All we needed to do was fix the refineries, and that's what you've told us today. I have seen many people in NNPC, in your circle, who think otherwise because they believe that we ought to continue with this subsidy regime. So I thank you very much. I pray that Mr. President will put you in a position where these ideas, could be put to use. Now, having said that, let me also add, I come from the Niger Delta. There are a lot of us who believe that most of the oil companies that are doing business in that neighborhood they ought to have their offices, their headquarters in that same neighborhood so that they could provide employment opportunities for these people. Even in this Senate, and I believe in the House of Reps, many a time, several motions have been moved along those lines. But till date, nothing has happened. More specifically, there's an issue that is raging right now. Mr. Nominee, please listen to me. There's an issue that is raging right now in Delta. It has to do with Nigerian gas. They are also threatening to move their headquarters from Warri Efru in Delta State elsewhere. I am seeking your commitment. I didn't say where it's going. Elsewhere. I am seeking your commitment today as a nominee that in the event you become the Minister of State Petroleum, as somebody else has canvassed, will you commit to me, I must say commit to us, will you commit to me as a representative of the people of Delta Central that you will not pretend over the movement of Nigerian gas from Efru elsewhere? And would you also commit to see to it that those companies that are doing businesses there in Delta, rather than take their headquarters elsewhere, that they also ought to come back to the Niger Delta area to provide jobs for our teeming unemployed youth? Thank you very much. I congratulate you for this nomination. Thank you, Mr. President.
DSP, my brother, you know, and when he's confirmed and assume he's given the portfolio of the Minister of Petroleum Resources, he's just one person. That can be a policy of government, or this Senate could pass resolutions and follow the implementation through. But I fear that even if, because he wants to be confirmed, commits to those things you ask him to commit, it takes more than him to keep those. So I want you to be a little bit lenient with him, that he will work to ensure that so you should know what to say about this. Senator Rosoko.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Rose Oko, Cross River North, and the constituency of the nominee. Mr. President, sitting as the chair, distinguished colleagues, you would all agree with me that Mr. Goddy Agba is a technocrat par excellence that brings a lot to the table in a very strategic and critical area of our economy. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I would like to personally thank Mr. President of this country for nominating somebody like himself from Cross River State. Notwithstanding the very many and eminently qualified people from that state, he stands out, especially in his area of specialization. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, from the various responses that he has given, I do not think that I need to speak so much more about Mr. Goddy Agba. And because of the responses that he has given, very eloquently given to the various issues that expertise, I would like to urge this hallowed chamber, our very distinguished colleagues, that for a nominee that brings so much to the table, for a nominee that will be a major part of the solution to the problems that we have in that sector, that he should take a bow and go.
Chikina, take a bow.
Can we then assume that you have spoken for your other colleagues from Cross River? Senator Sandy Ono is raising his hand. All right. Okay, Geshambasi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Gershom Bassi. I am the very proud senator representing Cross River South in this 9th Assembly. Today I'm very proud because Cross River State has brought to this chamber a nominee that has clearly demonstrated huge capacity in his area of expertise. Several questions have been thrown at him, and he has been extremely articulate in the way in which he has proffered solutions and answers to all these questions. He is a man of capacity. Tremendous. And we are proud. So let me second the suggestion made by my distinguished colleague, Rose Oko, that this gentleman, this man of huge capacity and talent, this man who has demonstrated not only knowledge, but technical know-how in his area of expertise, should take a bow in this chamber and leave. I so submit.
Senator Sandy Ono, you can second the seconding.
Mr. President, sitting as chair, is a very good man. Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues. Behold Prince Goddy Agba. He is a prince of the ancient Utuwan kingdom of Northern Cross River region. His father, Uti Agba, is 57 years and counting on the throne as paramount ruler, one of the oldest serving paramount rulers in Nigeria. They were inculcated with the right values and mores growing up. This certainly has seen him through the civil service, where he has showcased himself as a man of integrity, rising, as he has told us, to the enviable height of General Manager Crude in NNPC. He retired meritoriously. Mr. Chairman, when his matter was brought before us in the Cross River Senate caucus, we didn't find it difficult accepting that this was beautiful. Even when we are all PDP senators and he's an APC stakeholder who attempted with the likes of Senator John Owaneno and Victor Ndomegba to do the impossible. Mr. President, sir, the roles of the Senate, our own Senator Rozoko, described him as an okay guy. So we present to you an okay guy, a gentleman of cosmopolitan broad-mindedness. Goddy has the capacity of relating to all Nigerians without bias, regardless of ethnicity, geography, or religion. He is ministerial. He will do well in that office. As you can see, he has the right head sitting on the proper neck. And because the sauce that is good for the gander is good for the goose, is also good for the gander, I know that you would allow him do the needful, take a bow and go. Thank you.
Well, before he responds to some of the questions, excuse me, I'm tempted honestly to propose that we crown Senator Sandy Ono as the orator of the Senate. So some issues were raised. You can respond, including the commitments in court
I will
from the dear. So you can respond as quickly.
Am I protected? I'm protected. So I hide under your protection. I will not promise what I cannot deliver. However, I would like to make a comment. We are in an economy which is struggling to survive, striving. We have spent so much money in the NGC project. What sense would it make to move it from that place to any place else? What happens to the infrastructure? What happens to the money is wasted? I don't think anybody is contemplating that in its correct sense. I do not think so. Mr. Distinguished Senator, I think you should check your facts right again. Nobody can contemplate that in its correct senses. We have put in so much money. Besides, sir, I give an example of the pipeline in Europe, for instance. The pipeline that Russia takes gas from Russia through to Europe, it passes through Syria. When the problem was between Syria and you know who, what did the Damascus do? He rushed to Putin and said, guy, I'm under threat, they're going to kill me now, protect me. And Putin just locked the pipe.
Speak to the mic.
And then there was no flow of gas to Europe, and men were dropping dead. The old men were dying. Anyhow, it was winter. We have laid the pipeline, we are working on the West African gas pipeline from Warri up to the whole west coast of Africa, which may link up to Morocco and to Europe, which will bring us more revenue. Why do we block it now? Simple economics teaches us that you should, certain industries should be close to the source of raw material. So why do we do that? I don't contemplate that happening. I would not so pretend over that if I had an opportunity to, but I'm hiding under the president, Senate President. Thank you.
Well, distinguished colleagues, for those that had wanted to ask their questions, and if I indicated, and there are about 10 of our colleagues, unfortunately, we have run out of time, and also the mood is that the nominee has answered most of the questions put to him, and therefore he should take a bow and go. Is it the view of this Senate that he takes a bow and go? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. You can take a bow.
Well, Goddy Agba has just passed through his own screening. But it's very significant to know that the nominee is a technocrat who has actually explained vividly the mechanics and politics of the oil sector, especially when it has to do with subsidy.